Okay, we're back. We're back from the break, and so again, that live phone number is 727-8750. And thank Ray, the flagman, for calling in. He's called in twice now to the show. He's not shy. You don't need to be shy either. If you're out there, you have a question or concern or anything coming up, please feel free to do that. So right before the break, we were talking about sugar and cholesterol. And so back in the 80s, after Ronald Reagan had his heart attack, it was the anti-cholesterol movement. Statins hit the market, and everybody was like afraid of cholesterol. Don't eat eggs, don't eat the beef, don't eat this, don't eat that. It really turns out that was all hogwash and a big lie. What really is the problem is the sugar that we're eating and the amount of carbohydrates that we're eating. If you want to get into conspiracy theories of that being leading us into more carbohydrates and things of that nature, I have my own thoughts on that. I know the fen-phen problem was out in the 90s. It was a great medication for people losing weight. It really shut their appetite down. I don't really know all the logistics about the study that the Mayo Clinic did that supposedly showed there was heart issues, and the FDA pulled fen-phen off the market. But let me tell you, if you want to be a conspirator and think about that, think about all the drugs that have been in the pipeline for diabetes for so many years. If I was a pharmaceutical company working, spending billions of dollars on developing new diabetic drugs, I wouldn't want everybody to be skinny and non-diabetic. So it takes a little thing to do something. So there was no double-blind crossover placebo study, and what that means is you have two groups of people: control group, non-control group. Or two control groups. One gets a drug, one does not get a drug. They do not know which drug they're taking, a placebo, which is nothing, or they're taking the medication. And then they cross them over. And during the trial, they look for statistical significant changes in their heart. The ultrasounds that we do today pick up flow murmurs that you can't even hear with the stethoscope. So I always question that, and a few diet products have hit the market lately, but none of them have been as effective as the fen-phen issue. So that's my conspiracy, one of the theories of that. But anyway, bringing it back in, so we gain weight. People have gained weight. If you look at these actors and look at people, they're nice and skinny. They're thin, they're young, and then you look at them 20 years later and they've gained weight. Why is that? Well, we eat the same. We lose muscle. Our skin changes a little bit, and we become heavier. And that's why there's so much diabetes. But there's so much good food out there. And this holiday season is a prime example of that. I've kind of stopped checking people's cholesterol and a lot of their issues during the wintertime because you're inside more. The days are shorter. You're eating more comfort foods. The holidays are here. You're eating differently. And therefore, there's more sugar, there's more cakes, there's more pastries. And guess what? Your cholesterol is up, your sugar is up, you're gaining weight during the holidays. So it's not a really good time to be checking blood work unless you absolutely have to, because it's going to be altered. I tend to use it during the summertime because those are when people are out, they're exercising, they're eating better. A lot of people shift to fruit in the summertime. And remember, the fruit is good as long as you are not peeling the fruit. If you're eating the skin, it's good fruit, but fruit that you peel tend to have more sugar, so therefore banana, oranges, and all the people that are on water pills, they just grade, oh, I need oranges and bananas for my potassium. No, you don't. You can get potassium in a pill that has no calories, but you don't need all the calories. And oatmeal is one of the other biggest hoax in the morning. Oh, I thought it was good for my cholesterol. Well, it may be good for you to have a bowel movement, but it has nothing to do with your cholesterol. In fact, it makes your cholesterol worse because it's an oat, it's a sugar, it's basically a bran. So give up the Cheerios, give up the bran flakes, although some of those aren't actually too bad for you. They don't taste like cardboard, but probably good for the lower end. But stay away from the sugar-based foods in the morning. They keep you hungry all day. They raise your blood sugar, and they cause a lot of problems down the road. So sugar is the enemy, not your steak. Pork is not the other white meat. It is a little fattier than chicken. Your chicken should be free-range chicken. Tyson, like I said, watch the movie, which is Food Inc. or Food Incorporated. It shows you how what you think, the fast food nation used to be McDonald's and Burger King, but the fast food is basically everything that you eat. Shop non-GMO, which means genetically modified organism. I heard this, and I don't know it's true, but if China or some foreign country buys rice from the United States and it has so many parts per million of genetically modified organisms, and I couldn't tell you how they know that, they will not take that food in Europe. In fact, I heard that GMO foods, genetically modified organisms, are against the law in the European nations. Someone can correct me if that's wrong. But yet for us, it's okay to feed it to us and get us fat and diabetic and keep us unhealthy. I don't get it. But anyway, it's up to you to take charge of your diet and of your lifestyle. Nobody will do that for you but you. I have patients that come in, they have elevated blood sugars, they're doing whatever they want to do, and I have to really have a come to Jesus meeting with them, which is, well, why are you coming here? Why are you wasting your time and wasting my time? You obviously don't want to get a better diet. And it doesn't matter what medication I give you for your diabetes or whatever ailment you have. If you smoke and you have COPD and you want me to help you with that, I mean, you have to take the first steps. You have to want what's at the end of the road. You have to want better health. And if you don't, then don't go to the doctor. I mean, why are you placing him or her, your caregiver, in a bad situation? Is it that you want to save you? Well, how can we save you if you don't want to save yourself? So going forward in the next year, look at what you do. Take some positive steps. Nobody says you have to change overnight, but take an inventory of what you do that's health-wise and look at the things that you could change. And moderation is the key. I have no problem with people having alcohol or having all those other things that they may like to do, but moderation is the key. And if too much of anything, whether it be something good for you or something bad for you, is never good for you. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about what you're going to do next year. I want to bring up one of the slides that I had that we were, it was something I wanted to talk about at the last show, and it's going to change gears a little bit here. I wanted to talk about non-steroidal pain medications. These are ibuprofen and products of similar type. It could be Aleve, Advil. Advil is ibuprofen, Motrin is ibuprofen, ibuprofen is ibuprofen. Aleve is naproxen sodium. There are tons of non-steroidals out on the market. These are basically, the way they inhibit pain is by inhibiting prostaglandins. And prostaglandins are mediated by a certain chemical reaction, bradykinins, which really doesn't really matter to you, but prostaglandins, basically, there are good prostaglandins and there are bad prostaglandins. And within the spectrum of nonsteroidals, there are strong nonsteroidals that are really strong in anti-inflammatories, and there are weaker ones, and the spectrum probably goes from indomethacin, which is the strongest of the nonsteroidals, all the way out to Celebrex, which is probably one of the only ones, and I listed at the bottom of the slide COX-1 and COX-2, and that was basically inhibiting the good or the bad prostaglandins. If you remember, Bextra and Vioxx were two nonsteroidals that were pulled from the market because of the risk of developing heart disease. They weren't really developing heart disease, they increased your clotting parameters. And every once in a while you can still see a lawyer commercial for that on the late night show. But that being said, they found out that they could break these nonsteroidals down into inhibiting the bad prostaglandins and leaving the good prostaglandins alone. Well, what do the good prostaglandins do? Good prostaglandins mediate and maintain your stomach lining, and they also maintain renal blood flow. So if you take a Motrin-like product, then what ends up happening is you are at this end of the spectrum where you're inhibiting both good and bad prostaglandins. And when you're doing that, so over time, it's not like aspirin, which is a nonsteroidal, but aspirin actually can melt through the stomach. And it does so by a chemical reaction where the salicylate molecule, which is the actual aspirin molecule, when it hits your acid in your stomach, it turns neutral. And as it turns to a neutral charge, it passes through the gastric cell wall, and it concentrates into the gastric lining, the gastric cell. Well, in doing so, and it converts back to an acid. And if enough of the aspirin molecules lower the pH of that particular cell more in the acidic range, the cell breaks open. So you can actually take an aspirin tablet, and they've done this, and they put it on a stomach lining that they've taken from a cadaver or a dog or whatever, and it'll actually just burn a hole right through it. And so this is part of the issue where aspirin does that, but nonsteroidals work differently. They slowly weaken the stomach lining by inhibiting this prostaglandin layer, or this layer that maintains a nice barrier for protection. And as that gets denuded over time, weakened over time, your stomach becomes more likely to break down and develop an ulcer from stuff that normally would not be. So if you're taking ibuprofen and you're drinking alcohol, very strong irritants, sooner or later you probably maybe develop an ulcer. So that's what that actually does. So if you do develop an ulcer when you're taking a nonsteroidal, guess what? You're not really going to be able to take nonsteroidals. And there is a medication that some people can take called misoprostol, which can maintain that stomach lining. With regards to renal blood flow, there is no medication you can take to offset that. Basically, by inhibiting renal blood flow, your kidneys do not have eyes to the outside world. And there is a safety mechanism in our kidneys. And when we're going to go to break here in just a few minutes. And when we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about this mechanism for renal blood flow. And again, Happy New Year. That comes up. Set a goal. Be right back for the last segment of the show. Thank you for tuning in tonight.